Yellowstone is one of those places I've wanted to visit for a very long time. I finally made the trip to the park in September of 2012 with my camera and video equipment in hand to capture the journey. The following is a glimpse into my experience. I sure hope you enjoy the view. When you think of Yellowstone, you probably think of the thermal activity like geysers, boiling water, mineral deposits, streaming ponds, bubbling mud, or mammoth formations. They are pervasive throughout the park and much more beautiful than I ever imagined. Somehow, you just have to be there in person to get the full effect. When I was dreaming of going to Yellowstone, I envisioned wild animals in abundance. I looked forward to spending time with the animals, filming them, and learning about their personalities. The very first thing I saw upon entering the park was this sign. Little did I know how important this sign was. There were bison all over the place, in the fields, near the geysers, and very importantly, on the streets. The bison have discovered that it's much easier to walk on the roads than drudge through the fields, so they do just that. They are not in a hurry, could care less about the cars, and don't mind stopping traffic for significant amounts of time. On the other side of things, this behavior gave me a good chance to observe and film the bison. They are by far the most frequently seen animal in Yellowstone and the easiest to film. They seem incredibly docile, but I found out on one occasion that they can move very quickly and with incredible power. I had to run, camera and tripod in hand, behind my van for safety when two bison chased each other across the road in my direction. Okay, I have more respect for the possible damage they could cause, but they still come across as quite easygoing creatures to me. As you drive through the park, you can't help but be entranced by the beauty of the environments throughout the park. You see everything from beautiful plains surrounded by mountains, to gorgeous lakes and ponds, to rugged mountains, to wild rivers, to stunning waterfalls. It is truly breathtaking. Like I said earlier, you run into bison all over the place. This little one found itself alone and put on a mini performance, calling for its mother and doing a bit of grooming. Check out how close I got to this big fellow. That was before I realized just how quickly they can move. In any case, he just hung out only yards from me, eating away. I visited Yellowstone in September, hoping to experience and film the rut. Well, I missed it by a week. All I got to experience was these two young calves mimicking adult behavior. Oh well! The fire of 1988 that burned almost 800,000 acres in Yellowstone, while natural, was clearly devastating. You can see the remains of the fire throughout the park. Yes, foliage has returned to the fire-stricken areas. However, the ecosystem has been dramatically changed. The old-growth forest has been replaced primarily with lodgepole pines. These trees do not provide the food sources needed by most of the animals in the park. Hence, the vast majority of the animals have moved to the northern section of the park where the fire did not take hold, or out of the park altogether. This map shows the areas where the majority of animal sightings occur in the park today. After bison, the next most plentiful animal in the park are elk. They tend to move around the park, so it took me a while to find them. But find them I did, very close to the north entrance. I was able to film them from a bridge as they crossed the river and grazed before their afternoon nap. After the females, calves, and bull elk crossed the river and were quite content, this young male crossed the river to see if he could schmooze with the female elk. The bull elk would have none of it. He hustled his harem to their feet in preparation to move on. The young male decided better of the idea and chose just to skirt the edges of the herd. That allowed the females to go back to their normal activities of eating, sleeping, and feeding their young. Right across the street from the elk, I found these bighorn sheep on the tops and sides of a very steep rocky mountain. They have specially adapted hooves with soft padded centers that allow them to climb around on the steep slopes and avoid predators such as coyotes, eagles, and mountain lions. Further east along the Lamar Valley, I found these pronghorn grazing in a field near a river. While very alert to my presence, they allowed me to get quite close to them. I approached very slowly and never looked at them as I moved. I was able to crouch for a while to enjoy their munching and gentle interaction with one another. The male with the big horns was especially gracious, just laying there panting as I filmed him. This was the one and only time I was able to be with the animals without anyone else around. It is the kind of experience I was hoping to have more of. One morning, I was standing talking to a fellow videographer. All of a sudden he shouted, "Look, there's a coyote!" Sure enough, just on the other side of the road was a coyote trotting through the tundra. He went very quickly on his way to who knows where. One minute I could see him, and the next he disappeared into the bush. As is very common in Yellowstone, you see a line of cars on the side of the road. You have no idea what the people are looking at, but you stop anyway, just to check it out. This was a nice surprise, a bald eagle perched high on a pine tree. He didn't move much, but sat there for quite a long time, allowing us to enjoy his presence. Many days I took long hikes in the middle of the day, with camera in hand, hoping to see wildlife. One day, near the end of my hike, I came across a bush full of beautiful butterflies. They were flittering around from branch to branch. I took lots of shots, but got only a few that were sharp enough to share. On another hike, I was standing on a bridge watching the river below me when these two mule deer appeared on the trail ahead and stopped to check me out. While there are quite a few wolf packs in the park, they are very difficult to see. Every day, there are avid wolf trackers lining the road along the Lamar Valley. They hang out with lawn chairs and very powerful scopes. One of them was kind enough to let me view a wolf that was a good 400 yards away in deep grass. It was amazing to see this guy just trotting along. However, it was very clear that filming wolves in Yellowstone was out of the question for me with the equipment that I have. On the other hand, I was able to get a shot of this wolf at Yellowstone Bear World. Bear World is a fun place to stop on the way to or from Yellowstone. You get to see bears, wolves, elk, deer, and bison up close while driving your car with the windows up along a one-lane road inside the enclosure. The animals are free for you to enjoy as they do whatever they please. I found this park to be quite special, as the couple who developed it wanted to create what visitors of yesteryear used to experience when they visited Yellowstone. This is more like what I envisioned Yellowstone to be, based on the many films I have seen and the books I have read. Unfortunately, the bears were completely elusive on my trip to Yellowstone. I gathered from talking with many of the old-timers who visit the park regularly that it is very rare indeed to see bear in Yellowstone these days. The reasons range from the removal of bears that frequent visitor areas, to habitat changes, to lake trout taking over rivers that were once brimming with fatty stream trout. The bears you see here are very accustomed to humans. They even sit up and accept bread from visitors on the park's special tour bus. I also stopped at the Grizzly and Wolf Discovery Center just outside the west entrance of Yellowstone. Here I had a fabulous time watching the bears in their play area. They are brought into the play area two at a time to discover the food that has been hidden in the habitat and play to their heart's content. In between play periods, when the bears are being switched, park rangers give talks on interesting subjects about wildlife in Yellowstone. This is a great place to visit. I highly recommend stopping here when visiting Yellowstone. I left Yellowstone via the south entrance and went through Grand Tetons National Park. There were 4 fires in the park at the time. The smoke was extremely heavy. I didn't get a chance to see the majestic Tetons, but I did get a chance to see a couple of moose. The first just sat in the mud and looked around at us as if to say, "Aren't you bored with me yet?" I stayed for quite a while. He never showed any signs of getting up. The second was quite a distance away, foraging on willows. He disappeared quickly into the bush, leaving me wishing for more. All in all, I had a good trip, but I left feeling like we really need to do something to rejuvenate our national parks and to return them to their former glory. I'd like to have the opportunity to see the wildlife in the abundance it once was. I'd like the freedom to enjoy it without rangers at every sighting restricting our movement. I realize that there are risks when encountering wild animals, and I'm willing to take that risk, to be in the proximity of those spectacular animals and their environment. I wonder if others share my feelings.